Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast, and this is Raising 10, episode 9. First of all, Happy New Year. I hope your holidays were fantastic. We're all looking forward to a better year, I hope, in 2026. And I want to tell you, I was supposed to do this podcast yesterday, and I was so tired from after working at Costco and pushing baskets for the last 2 months. And the last 6 days prior to New Year's Day, I had almost reached 150,000 steps in 6 days, and my body was just tore up. And I know I keep bringing this up, and a lot of you are just, you know, so big deal. You were a cart boy for 6 weeks at or 8 weeks at Costco, but it became a real physical challenge, and I was actually surprised I could do it. But I did it, lost 30 pounds plus, and I feel really good. And I apologize for this being a day late, but Happy New Year anyway. I hope 2026 is a better year than last year, and I'm not going to get into that. But you know what I'm going to talk about today? We all talk about resolutions. You know, who makes resolutions out there anymore? And how does this affect? What does this have to do with children? Well, I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But something interesting I found about resolutions is the word resolution comes from Latin, meaning loosen or undo, or I don't know how to pronounce that word. Entering English the late 14th century with senses of breaking things down or solving problems. Its meaning evolved from liberal dissolution, like a chemical breakdown, um, including overcoming conflicts and making firm decisions, leading to the modern concept of a New Year's resolution. Didn't know all this, by the way. Um, as an expressions of steadfast intent for self-improvement, a phrase appearing to be appearing in print by the 19th century. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, I kind of knew what it meant. We all have our own thing. It's about setting goals for the new year, and we kind of use that January 1st date as a time to start setting those new goals. Well, I'm one of those people. I'm setting goals all year. I mean, I'm always doing something that's going to be, and I set micro goals. I set small goals. I have this big goal that I want to hit, but I set these little goals because when you hit those little goals, those are the ones that propel you to the next goal setting session or, you know, and there's these little successes you get. So I told you all before I try to go to the gym at 5 a.m. I haven't been in the last 8 weeks because I get off so late, but I'll start that up again. And it's not, and there's really no reason for it except just this discipline thing that I got used to doing, starting at 5. In fact, I saw a gentleman this morning at the gym that I haven't seen in a while because I've been going later, and he decided that 7 o'clock was fine for him to go. I just like getting up at 3:30 in the morning and going at 5 o'clock. I know I'm kind of a whack job when it comes to that, and it doesn't make any sense, I guess, to a lot of people, but it makes sense to me. One of the new trends out there is micro podcasts, which are like 4 to 6 minutes long, and that's something I'm going to be doing more of. Is these short podcasts that just get to one subject, just to one point. I have a great guest on next week, and I'm looking for more great guests. If you know somebody or you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, you can reach me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. I'm looking for parents, doctors, anything to do with children that we can talk about and break down. And like I said, this podcast is all about my perspective of being a father of 8 and a grandparent of 20 and the 10 kids that I've raised over the last 39 years. So again, Happy New Year. Let's dig into this. So we always would set goals when the kids were smaller. When they were at home, we would talk about New Year's resolutions, and the kids would set little goals for themselves, and it was kind of cute. And I tried to hold them to those things because I thought setting those goals and having some kind of success in their life meant was important to them. It was important to me to watch them set those goals, and and I know a lot of people out there think that New Year's resolutions are just BS. And hey, listen, I agree at some level. Like I said, I'm setting goals all the time, so it doesn't matter what the date is for me. It's just something I do. Statistically, I would imagine that about 75% of people that set a New Year's resolution don't even accomplish it. So if that's something you set a resolution and then you didn't, after 3 or 4 weeks going to the gym or eating better or whatever the resolution is, you give up on it. I can see why you wouldn't want to set any more goals, at least for the new year. I think it's important to have those dreams, to dream big, to have those visions of where you want to end up in life. And I thought it was important for my kids to have those things too. And, as parents, we're going to have it's Happy New Year and Happy New Tears sometimes because we're going to have some things that happen in our life, whether you like it or not, that are not going to make the year better. They're going to feel like it's making it worse. But those things, a lot of times, will drive a goal out of you. Or those things you get over, like going to work at Costco. At first, I thought it was just going to be a holiday job, but like I said, it turned into a real physical challenge that I crushed. And, I feel good about that I was able to do that. And there were some great benefits of the weight loss, the money I made, things like that. And I'm on to bigger and better things now. I have one more day there in the rain, of course, tomorrow. and and I don't like pushing carts when you're soaking wet, but that's the job they offered me, and I took it and I committed to it. And I have one more day of it, and I did a good job, I think. So maybe they call me back, but probably not. I mean, it's not something I really want to do for a living. I have so many other things to do. Um, and the thing is with kids, are we encouraging them enough when they're younger or when they're older? Are we listening to them and saying, look, maybe this is a good path for you to go on? Or are we pushing them too hard? I know a lot of parents that have pushed their kids very hard. And a lot of times that makes the child go the other direction. I've seen a lot of parents do that, especially in sports. And they're the one putting in the work, the kids are, and you're just on the sideline busting their ass or the referee's ass or whoever because you're trying to push your child to be a better version of themselves. I think the intent is good. I think pushing them too hard obviously doesn't always work out. And you know your kids, you know which ones have to be pushed a little harder than others, and I get that. Are we giving them the tools they need? That's another thing. Are we giving them what they need to accomplish their goals? If they want to do art, are we getting them the supplies they need and the things they want to do? Sometimes not getting them those tools is their motivation to continue that goal or work harder at it. I know when I was younger, there were certain things that I wanted when I was a kid. I started my own business at 14 years old selling skateboard decks. And it was only out of the fact that I wanted money to buy whatever I wanted to buy, whether it was food for me at lunch or things that my parents wouldn't buy me. And maybe it was clothes, maybe it was a certain style of clothes. For all you older people, OP was a big thing back in the days in the 80s, Ocean Pacific. I mean, in the 70s, I should say. Vans were just coming out. We all wanted that stuff, and my parents wouldn't necessarily buy those things for me. So I went out and worked and made my own money, and I could spend my money the way I wanted to. Are we just or are we just hoping they figure things out? Sometimes that's what you need to do, and just kind of let them try to figure things out and ask questions to other people that are doing it. It's no different than what we do to ourselves. And like I said, this podcast is going to be maybe just boring as hell for everybody, but I think it's important. As I look back, we did encourage our kids to set goals. New Year's resolutions would always come up, and we'd ask the kids and we'd have discussions about it. What's something you want to change in your life or do? And it was a plethora of things that they wanted to do. I can't even remember what each kid had a goal to do. But I can tell you that the ones that set goals and accomplishment are doing better now than some of the other kids. So I think there's something to it. Um, I think I think these micro goals are really important. So there's a book I read by Matthew Kelly, and he's talking about being saints, how saints they just weren't born saints. Well, two people were, but and how they had to string these little holy moments together, and that's how they became saints. And that's what I think you need to do with goals. If you set a goal, for 5 years down the road, and you're not taking action up until that 5 years is up, well, you're probably not going to hit your goal. So I read a book one time, and a lot of you may have read this. It's probably the best business book I've ever read. It's called Good to Great. It's written by Jim Collins, and Jim Collins is a Stanford professor. And what they did in this book, the first couple chapters are only about um, statistical information. They were looking for companies that outdid the S&P for like 15 years straight. Places like Coca-Cola and Walgreens and Wells Fargo Bank and things like that. They were crushing goals. And after they went through all these statistics, they talked about why they think those companies did better. And generally, it came down to leadership. Who were the leaders? Um, who were these people that were putting together the day-to-day things that they could reach their goals with? There's a sentence in there about big, hairy, audacious goals that these companies had for many years down the road, but they had to do all these small things to get to those. There was one example where Walgreens, the leader of Walgreens, said, "Look, we want to be out of the restaurant business." They would have a snack bar or a restaurant inside all of their stores, and he said he wanted to be out of the restaurant business in 5 years. A year later, he came to a meeting with all these managers and all these big executives and said, "Where are we at on this restaurant thing? Remember, I want to be out of this business within 4 years now." And they said, "Oh, yeah, we got a lot of time." And he says, "No, now you have 4 years, not five. So if you haven't started on it, now you're behind a year." We do that in our own life, I hope. I hope you're setting these goals. For instance, if your thing is to go to the gym and you want to lose, 30 pounds, you're not going to lose 30 pounds in as fast as I did pushing carts. You're just not going to do it. You could, I guess, but you're just not going to do it. In fact, they say it takes 30 days for you just to get used to going, 60 days for other people to notice, and 90 days for you to start noticing that you're making some headway on your goal. If you're trying to lose weight or get bigger, thinner, whatever you're trying to do. So, do I think New Year's resolutions are important? I think goal setting is important, and people will argue with you about that. I watch a lot of TikTok videos about goal setting and things like that, and there's people out there that say they think setting goals is just the dumbest thing you can do. And that's their opinion. I don't think that. I think that you need to set these small goals and maybe weekly goals or daily goals, or, if you just commit to maybe not eating sugar tomorrow, if that's what your thing is, you want to get off sugar. Don't say you're not going to eat sugar for 90 days. Just say, "I'm not going to eat sugar tomorrow." It's kind of like an alcoholic. They say you got to go one day at a time. I think a lot of goals like this, you do have to do exactly that. It's just one day at a time. Maybe tomorrow you don't have any sugar. Then when tomorrow's over, you say, "You know what? I'm not going to have any sugar the next day either." And as you start doing that, you'll start reaching those goals. Um, I'm reading something right now. I so apologize. The new year brings new goals and sometimes new tears. Like I said, there's going to be things that happen in your life that you're not ready for. But you need to crush those things too. You need to address those trauma, if you want to call it that, those traumas, and you need to get past them, not over them, not forget them. You may lose somebody this year in your life that's going to be hard to deal with. I had a friend of mine that lost before Christmas last year in 2024. He lost his best friend and his brother in the same week. And I felt so bad for this guy. We were supposed to get together for lunch, and he just felt like anybody he met was not going to live. And we never did it. And a year later, right before Christmas this year, he lost his wife. And I don't know how all this happened, but this poor guy is right in the middle of it, man. And of course, none of it was expected. And he's had to get over this and still go to work and still do all these things and manage a household. And let me tell you, it's tough. And I've talked about trauma on this podcast before, about how my kids had to get over, specific traumas of my grandkids. And we just need to go day by day and just continue to grind. No one's coming for you to save you. Nobody. And one of the hardest things to understand is you're where you're at because of the things you've done in the past, right? I'm in the situation I'm in because of decisions I made in the past. Some of them were really good decisions, some of them not so good, some of them were gambles that I lost on, some of them were gambles that I won. And I think that's just life, where you just go through these things where, you've got to make decisions with the best information you have at the moment and then live with whatever comes out of that, good or bad. Um, all these tears, though, and the good things, it really gives you a chance to show up for the people that matter the most, right? I told you in my last podcast, your kids are watching you. Your kids are watching you set goals. I'm not even a big proponent of putting those goals out there. Like, I'm not going to sit here and list all the goals that I have to you to make me accountable. And I don't think you need to do that with your circle of friends or family either. I think these goals can stay with yourself. Some people, again, they disagree with that. They say you should put it out there in the world, and people will hold you accountable. But you know that if you have friends that drink and you're trying to quit drinking, they're going to say, "Come on, it's just one drink or it's just one night," and that's not going to help you reach your goals. So putting those things out there sometimes is not advantageous for you. Maybe creating a new circle of friends is really what you need to do. And I don't know. I don't know how you process or how you get through what you need to do in life to be successful, but you got to address it, right? We just can't sit on our hands and wait. Although I can tell you that in this job and in life in general, I'm very surprised at how unenthusiastic people are about their future, about not doing the work, putting the work in if they wanted to do something better. And a lot of people will just complain and complain and complain about things. And my kids have done this before too. When they have the opportunity to change their life and they don't change it, micro micro goals. I'm telling you, this is a way to crush it. This is the thing you need to do. It's just those small pieces. And sometimes it's going to hurt. Sometimes you're not going to want to go to the gym. Listen, I wake up at 3:30 sometimes, and I am not about getting out of bed, especially if it's cold. But you got to just swing one leg out of the bed, right? You swing one leg out, put both feet, then put both feet on the ground, stand up, turn off your alarm, whatever it is. Once I'm out of bed, I'm good. I'm golden. I can get going. But man, that bed's pretty warm sometimes, and I don't want to get up and do it. Now, what will cross my mind is when that happens is that I need to get out of bed. If I want to crush that goal and get to where I want to be, I've got to get up and stay up and get my stuff ready and get to the gym, get dressed, do all those things, eat something. And as I'm turning and burning like that in the morning, I'm fine. I can go to the gym at 5 o'clock. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, it doesn't matter. If it's cold out, I'll get up and go anyway. And you just have to have that fight in you where you want to do these things you want to do. I am 1,000% positive that any one of you that has a goal can reach that goal. I'm 1,000% positive I can reach it too. But when I don't reach those goals, I know why. It's on me. It's not on anybody else. Nobody tells me not to go to the gym. Nobody offers me a better idea at the time. Nobody's up. That's why. And it's all on you. It's all on me. So if we want to do some things, it's all on my kids. And like I said, we had hundreds of conversations about this when they were younger, about how, they wanted to set goals, what they wanted to do for work, what they wanted to do in their life, what it was going to look like to have a family, things like that. And now, lo and behold, I have 20 grandchildren and all my kids have children. And they're all doing a good job at their children. They're all good parents and they're all doing fine. So, I'm going to do it next week. We have a podcast. It's going to be we have a podcast. I have a podcast with a really special guest about entrepreneurial kids, about a business she set up where she teaches kids how to be entrepreneurs. Look, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to work, I want to dig ditches in a field somewhere. No, generally a child does not come up with that. But the things they come up with always take a lot of work, right? Athletes. I told you before I went to my granddaughter's class and we talked about what I did for a living, and I asked all the kids what they wanted to do when I got doctors and you know athletes and all those things. And all these things have a lot of work to do to get to where they want to be. And I think parents should help them do that, but I don't think they should do it for them. And like I said, I think sometimes parents push their kids too hard in because they have a vision of what they want their kids to do in life, and the kids have a different vision. You got to let your kids fall. You got to let them fail. And as hard as that is, it's the reality of life. So I appreciate you listening today. Not a long podcast, and like I said, a lot more micro podcasts coming up. I'll tell you that's one of my goals is to do these smaller podcasts. This podcast is really going well. It's blowing up. This year, 2026, so much better it's going to be. I'm going to get a lot of better guests on. Listen, all the guests I've had have been fantastic. I'm going to get a lot more guests on in some different areas that I think you'll be interested in. And I think that the viewership for my clips is showing me that when I do have those guests on, my clip views go way up. So that's my goal. if you know somebody that wants to be on the podcast that you think can add value, hit me up at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Or if you're one of those people that could add value to my podcast, please, edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on my social media. I'm everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all of it. If you're listening to a podcast instead of watching them, I'm on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iHeart. I'm on all those platforms. So listen, I always beg you for this. I'm going to beg you again. Listen to my clips, listen to my podcast, like it, share it, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you go there. And make sure you stay engaged with me, and I'll stay engaged with you, and I'll do everything I can to put out the best content I can put out. I appreciate you all. If you have some goals set for 2026, I hope you crush them. Remember, baby steps, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, if that's what you need. But those small steps will make you crush your goals. And listen, in 6 months, you could be in 90 days, you could be in a completely different control of everything in your life. That's what one of my goals is too. And 90 days at a time, 30 days at a time, 1 week at a time, whatever it takes to get me to where I want to go, that's where I want you to be. Your kids are watching you. I've told you that in a couple podcasts ago. And they're watching you set these goals, and your friends are watching, and you're watching. That's the most important person right there, is that you're watching and that you're doing these things that are going to help you get your goals crushed. All my kids have specific goals right now that they're trying to reach. And my wife and I are right there encouraging them and offering any help we can give them. So I appreciate you listening. Please keep listening and sharing and liking my clips and podcasts. And if you have a particular topic you want to hear about, hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. Put that topic in there, and I'll figure out a way to make it work. So happy New Year to all of you. We're usually at the beach today, but all I get, since it's raining here, all I get you is a picture of the beach. But anyway, kill it out there and have a fantastic week. I'll see you next week on a brand new podcast. Thanks for listening.